Have you ever stopped to think why Kurdish unity has stayed, well, just out of reach for centuries, even with a shared culture, language, geography? And what if this next decade, say 2025, 2035, what if this becomes a time they finally build something durable? Not, a single state, but maybe a practical pan-Kurdish coordination system, like a web of agreements, perhaps. Security, economy, culture, spanning across Iraq, Syria, Turkey, Iran. Today, we're doing a deep dive into this whole fascinating, complex story. We've really dug into the research, historical accounts, mainly from a Kurdologist viewpoint, and our mission really is to pull out the most vital insights for you, to help you grasp what's shifting right now that could finally maybe align interests across those borders, something new.
Yeah, what's really striking from the sources is how structurally hard unity has been. I mean, their homeland was carved up first by empires, then modern states, and that created these distinct political arenas. Different patronage networks, different laws. It just baked in fragmentation over a long, long time.
That makes a lot of sense. So, to really get the picture today, we need to trace that history back, right? Our sources point to these major historical shocks that sometimes brought Kurds together identity-wise, but then also, tragically, deepened the splits between them.
Exactly. You look at the 1639 Ottoman-Safavid border deal.
Right.
And then later, things like Sykes-Picot during World War I. These weren't just lines on maps. They became administrative divides, then hard state borders.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Kurds are under completely different legal systems, different armies, separate economies.
And here's where it gets really interesting. You look at early Republican Turkey, the repression there, like the Sheikh Saad Rebellion in 1925.
A huge event.
Huge. And the Dersim events in 37, 38. Sources say this seeded, well, deep trauma and mistrust. But kind of ironically, it also fueled nationalist feeling mobilization.
And then you have these flashes, these moments like the Mahabad Republic in Iran, 1946.
Ah, yes, Mahabad.
Brief, but our sources call it a sort of template, for institutions, symbols. But its collapse taught a hard lesson, too, about relying on outside powers. That double-edged sword idea.
So following that thread, how did other devastating events shape things?
Well, fast forward to Iraq in 1988, the Anfal campaign, Halabja. These were genocidal acts.
Unimaginable.
Truly. Yet out of that horror, a powerful moral claim emerged. And that ultimately led to the autonomy they gained after 1991. But then, almost immediately, you had that bitter intra-Kurdish civil war in 94 to 98.
Right, the KDP versus PUK fighting.
Exactly. And that just cemented those dual power structures in the Kurdistan region of Iraq.
Yeah.
More recently, think post-2003 federalism in Iraq. It led eventually to the 2017 independence referendum.
Which unified people on the street for a moment.
It did, massively, but strategically. It backfired, isolated the KRI.
Okay, connecting this to the bigger picture, what about Syria? That governance experiment in the Northeast, Rojava, or the AAS after 2012, that seems critical too.
It's absolutely critical. It's a revised social contract from 2023. Very focused on multilingualism, communal governance. It's inspiring for some Kurds, definitely, but it's seen as a major threat by Ankara, by Turkey. And that really complicates things for Erbil, for the KRI government too. It's a very tangled web.
So all that history weighing down, how do these deep fractures play out today? Our sources talk about structural fault lines, persistent challenges.
Yeah, and one really crucial one is this party patrimonial dualism in the KRI, in Iraqi Kurdistan. It's less like normal parties, more like entrenched power bases, KDP and Erbil Dahaq, PUK and Soleimani.
Okay.
And this rivalry, it affects everything. Security, you have their separate Peshmerga units, Unit 80 for KDP, Unit 70 for PUK.
Still separate.
Still largely separate, despite unification efforts. It affects administration, who gets jobs, contracts, and even their foreign policy leanings. KDP, often closer to Turkey, PUK, historically closer to Iran, provides a kind of resilience, maybe, but it puts a huge brake on unity.
And it's not just party politics, right? There are ideological splits, too.
Oh, definitely. You've got national conservative strands, more social democratic or Republican ideas, and then the appoist democratic confederalism that's linked to the PKK's ideology, focused on decentralization, self-rule.
So they all want unity, but they mean very different things by it. Statehood, federalism, this confederal model.
Exactly. Different end goals. Plus, you have linguistic diversity, Kermanji, Sorani, Zazaki, Harami. And dialect politics, well, they often still map onto those KDP-PUK zones, too.
Wow. So layer on top of that the different states they live in.
Right. The political opportunity structures, as the academics call it, are just vastly different. Iraq's constitution allows for a recognized region, the KRI.
Okay.
Syria's ANES. still unrecognized internationally, precarious. In Turkey, Kurdish parties face constant legal pressure, closures, arrests. And in Iran, outright repression of parties, plus those cross-border strikes we see against groups based in Iraq. So the tools available to Kurds, the ways they can organize and act, are fragmented by the state they happen to be in.
Okay, so despite all these really deep-seated challenges, our sources are pointing to some openings right now, 2024, 2025, and this is where it gets important for you, the listener, because these shifts, however small they seem, could actually reshape the future.
Yes, there are definitely some shifts, tentative maybe, but significant. There's movement, or at least talk, around a de-escalation between Turkey and the PKK. If that holds, it could create real space for legal political activity inside Turkey again.
That would be huge.
It would. Then there's the Peshmerga unification, the KRI. It's slow, painfully slow sometimes.
Right.
But there is measurable progress. Better command and control, moving away slowly from those party militias. Then you have the AENES in Syria with its updated 2023 social contract. That could potentially open doors for more practical cross-border coordination, less ideological, more needs-based. And finally, the oil issue. The KRI resuming exports via Ceyhan in Turkey has been bumpy, lots of disputes. But if that revenue-sharing deal with Baghdad holds, and the Iraqi oil minister did say publicly just this August 2025 that flows were about to restart, that could be a massive fiscal stabilizer for the KRI.
Right. Reliable income changes everything.
Absolutely.
So you might be sitting there thinking, okay, fascinating history, complex divisions, but why should I really care about all these details? Well, understanding these deep roots, these embedded factors, is really key to seeing why these current openings matter so much, and why getting it right this time could genuinely change the future for millions. So with these openings on the table, what potential futures are we looking at? What do our sources suggest for, say, the next decade, 2025 to 2035? The scenarios are pretty interesting.
Yeah, the most plausible one, based on our reading, seems to be what's called confederal coordination. Now, this is not a single Kurdish state, let's be clear.
Not Greater Kurdistan.
No. It's more like a pan-Kurdish coordination compact. Think periodic meetings, maybe congresses, technical working groups.
Practical stuff.
Exactly. Focused on shared issues. Energy cooperation, streamlining border trade, maybe cultural preservation, language standardization efforts. The key things that would need to happen for this: continued progress on Peshmerga integration, that KRI oil money flowing steadily, a real, sustained thaw with Turkey. And the AENES proving it can provide stable local governance.
Okay, so that's the main scenario. What are the alternatives?
Well, there's a contrast with the KRI consolidation first idea, basically. The KRI focusing inward, fixing its own divisions before looking outward. And then there's the downside risk, the spoiler spiral. That's where progress stalls, maybe tensions rise again, and things could slide back towards conflict or fragmentation.
So when we talk about Kurdish unity, it's clearly not just a simple slogan. Our sources really break down the concrete pros and cons, thinking about it as a policy goal, not just, an aspiration.
Right. And if you put it in that broader context, potential upsides are pretty significant. More bargaining power for Kurdish groups, more predictability when dealing with regional powers, the US, Europe. Enhanced security, potentially, through a truly professional, unified Peshmerga. Real economic benefits from stable oil exports, smoother customs across borders, culturally, maybe more cooperation on media, education, and a stronger, more coordinated diaspora pushing for Kurdish interests internationally.
Okay, those are compelling upsides. But what about the risks? The structural downsides? Pursuing this coordination, what could go wrong?
Well, the sources flag several big ones. First, neighbor vetoes. Turkey and Iran especially are likely to push back hard against anything that looks like rapid state-like unification.
That seems unavoidable.
Pretty much. Then there's a risk of party capture, the idea that unity projects could just end up reinforcing the power and patronage of the existing dominant parties, like the KDP and PUK. That's criticism you hear a lot inside the KRI. Also, a fundamental ideological non-fit. Trying to force together those very different visions, statist, federalist, confederalist, could actually spark conflict again, like in the 90s.
Right. The cure being worse than the disease.
Potentially. And finally, just plain legal constraints. Iraqi federal law puts limits on independent oil deals and exports, and domestic laws in Syria, Turkey, Iran restrict what any cross-border Kurdish body can formally do. Reality bites.
So knowing all that, the upsides, the serious risks, What are the actual concrete near-term plays? What do the sources suggest are actionable, realistic steps to move forward across borders?
Okay, the sources point to about 4 key practical steps. First, set up a Kurdish Coordination Forum, a KCF. Importantly, make it a standing, non-state forum, maybe based in Erbil or Duhok, rotating chair.
Non-state, okay.
Yeah.
Less threatening.
Exactly. Focus on practical cells. Security deconfliction between different Kurdish forces, and energy and customs working group, maybe a language and media consortium. Keep it technical. Second, finish the job on Peshmerga unification. Real, time-bound integration of Units 70 and 80 into the Ministry of Peshmerga Affairs Brigades. And crucially, tie international military aid to verified progress, third-party verification.
Put some teeth into it.
Precisely. Third, leverage that potential Turkey PKK opening for civilian rights wins inside Turkey. Focus on achievable things. Restoring municipal rights for Kurdish mayors, expanding Kurdish language services, releasing nonviolent political prisoners. Don't go for maximalist demands that could derail the whole process. Keep it practical.
Tactical gains.
Yes. And fourth, shield the practical ties between the NES in Syria and the KRI in Iraq from geopolitics. Keep those links: technical trade, managing shared water resources, maybe patients crossing for healthcare. Avoid big ideological statements or alignments that provoke Ankara.
Keep it low-key, functional.
That seems to be the advice. Reduce the incentive for external vetoes.
Okay, that's a clear set of potential actions. So for you, the listener wanting to track this, what should we be watching? What are the key indicators in the next, say, 12 to 24 months?
Good question. There are a few critical watch points. One, did those Iraq-Turkey oil exports actually restart and stay on? Consistent flow is vital for the KRI budget.
Money talks.
It really does
That's
here.
fair.
Two, are Unit 70 and Unit 80 Peshmerga forces genuinely under ministry command? Or is it just, window dressing? Look for real operational integration. Three, does that Turkey PKK de-escalation actually stick, especially through any upcoming elections in Turkey? Or does it fall apart under political pressure?
Stability is key there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Four, watch Iran's behavior. Do we see more cross-border missile or drone strikes targeting Kurdish groups in Iraq? Or does that ease off? And finally, 5, ANES governance in Syria. Does that 2023 social contract actually translate into better services, more stability, genuinely inclusive representation for Arabs, Syriacs, and others, not just Kurds?
So performance and stability on the ground there.
Yes, that's crucial for its legitimacy and potential role in wider coordination.
While our deep dive today has covered a lot of ground, centuries of fragmentation, these glimmers of unity, and a really detailed map of where things stand right now. It's a story, fundamentally, not just about conflict, but also incredible resilience, adaptation, and maybe, just maybe, a new way forward for the Kurdish people. So as you go about your day, maybe mull this over. In a world so often defined by hard borders and old grievances, what does this idea of a practical web of coordination actually mean? Especially for people seeking self-determination without necessarily aiming for a single unified state right now. What kind of unity is actually the most sustainable, the most durable in a region as complex as this one? Something to think about.